So, you're interested in the C5 Corvette, the best sports car for the money that you can enjoy every day. Then welcome to this concisely edited buyer's guide, where I'll show you common problems, popular options, current values, and major model year changes, including the years I most recommend. My name is Brad, C5 owner and enthusiast, and I can't wait to show you everything you gotta know about the C5 Corvette. So let's rewind to the C5's first year, 1997. The C5 premiered as a radical departure from the C4, with an all-new structure that was an amazing 4.5 times stiffer. For increased interior space and better weight balance, the transmission was moved to the rear. A torque tube was then introduced to connect the two ends of the driveline together. Under the hood, the legendarily stout 5.7-liter LS1 V8 made its debut. In these early years, it churned out 345 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. Two transmissions were available, a 4-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual, but only around 40% of customers ordered the stick. With the 6-speed, 0 to 60 miles per hour ripped by in only 4.8 seconds, with the automatic hitting 60 in the low 5-second range. 3 suspension options were available: the relatively soft FE1 code standard suspension, the stiffer performance-oriented Z51 package, and the F45 selective real-time damping system. On the safety front, every C5 came standard with dual airbags, anti-lock brakes, and traction control. The new curvaceous body was the second most aerodynamic car design you could buy at the time. Its 0.29 coefficient of drag was bested only by the Lexus LS400. That slippery shape not only allowed for surprisingly decent highway fuel economy, it also sliced through the air towards a Motor Trend tested top speed of nearly 174 miles per hour. For its first year, the C5 was only available as a coupe with a lift-off targa top. The targa is easily removed with a few latches and stowed in the massive hatchback luggage area. In addition to the standard solid targa top, a common option was an additional tinted see-through targa top, which is also a bit lighter. The luggage area is a staggering 25 cubic feet. That's more room than any car with the traditional trunks sold that year, dwarfing even the Cadillac DeVille and Lincoln Town Car. There's extra storage hidden away under several cubbies, 2 smaller ones on each side and a sizable central storage area. At first, the only wheel design was this thick 5-spoke look, which enthusiasts have unlovingly nicknamed the wagon wheel. But you could take your pick from a variety of these color options in 1997. And while most C5s were ordered with interiors that were all black, matching color options for the seats and lower portions of the interior were available. Because of a delayed start, 1997 is easily the rarest of all C5 model years, with only 9,752 made in total. Despite that rarity, modern values of 1997s are generally lower than later cars, as it was a classic case of a brand new car with several bugs that needed to be worked out, which were improved in later years. The big news for 1998 was the return of the Convertible. It's a manually operated soft-top design with a glass rear window that only takes around 20 seconds to operate, and it features a hard panel that covers the stowed top for a stylishly integrated waterfall look. For the first time since 1962, the Corvette Convertible had a proper trunk lid. That opened to reveal around 14 cubic feet of space, bigger than any other convertible at the time. Even though the Convertible stickered for a $7,000 price premium over the base coupe, the soft top proved to be a popular option, accounting for roughly 1/3 of all C5s produced. A stability control system was introduced in 1998 called the Active Handling System. This $500 option used individual brakes to keep the car in line around corners. A competition mode was included that allowed a small amount of slippage for performance driving. For 1998, magnesium wheels became a new option, which were a few pounds lighter than the standard aluminum wheels. Light oak, which was basically tan, became a new interior color option. And here were the exterior color choices for this model year. In 1998, the Corvette was once again the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500. And as they had done in the past, Chevy made a limited number of replicas available to the public. Admittedly, the extroverted graphics on the decals and radar blue on yellow color scheme wasn't for everyone, but 1,158 buyers ponied up an additional $5,000 to own this special edition. In its first full year of production, 1998 saw Corvette sales jump to over 31,000 units, the most in over a decade. C5 sales remained remarkably strong and consistent for the rest of its run. 1999 introduced another new body style of the C5, the Fixed Roof Coupe, or FRC for short, which was the most performance-oriented version yet. The removable target top of the standard coupe was exchanged for this fixed notchback look. Although luggage space was 40% less than the hatchback version, the Fixed Roof Coupe was 12% stiffer and 79 pounds lighter. The FRC was only available with the 6-speed manual and the Z51 sport suspension, and it was stripped of some luxury items like full power seat adjustments or the new power telescoping steering wheel that became available in other versions of the 1999 Corvette. Performance of the FRC hardtop was only a hair quicker than the standard hatchback in most tests, but top speed actually dropped a bit to 169 miles per hour due to the less aerodynamic rear glass. Even though its asking price over a comparable hatchback C5 was slightly lower, many buyers didn't see the point of a Corvette with less luxury and utility that wasn't much faster. So only 4,031 buyers sprung for the hardtop option in 1999, around 12% of Corvette sales that year. Across the line, another new bit of tech debuted in 1999, the head-up display, or HUD for short. This $375 option projected important readouts directly onto the windshield, so the driver could get a quicker read without taking their eyes off the road. All 1999 Corvettes were blessed with revised steering systems that increased control and eased highway wandering. Here were the exterior colors available for the Vette's last year of the century. Notice anything missing? Chevrolet finally offered a yellow C5, appropriately called Millennium Yellow. The standard wagon wheels were replaced with a new design which featured thinner spokes, which could be ordered polished for extra bling. The proximity feature of the keyless entry system was removed. This change also allowed Chevy to remove the passenger side door lock for manufacturing simplicity. This year, the Z51 performance package received even stiffer stabilizer bars to further combat roll in corners. And improved rubber seal designs kept water out of the interior. For example, on hatchback coupes, this funky lengthened bit of rubber kept water from dumping inside when the hatch was opened. The 2000 model year was the final year for the fixed roof coupe, as sales dipped to just 2,090 units. While it has its fans, some saw the FRC as a half-baked attempt at a performance variant. So Chevrolet cooked up something much spicier for the following year to replace it. 2001 saw the introduction of the radical Z06, a true high-performance Corvette variant. While it kept the notchback roof design of the FRC, the rest of the car was thoroughly reworked in the name of serious speed. Under hood, the LS1 was hot-rodded into the new high-compression LS6. Better breathing, a hotter cam, bigger injectors, and a higher redline shoved output up to 385 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque. The Z06 was only available with a new 6-speed manual transmission with more aggressive gear ratios. Cooling vents appeared for the rear brakes, and the new Z06 suspension package was even stiffer than the Z51's. The Z06 got this exclusive 10-spoke Speedline wheel style and forgoed the base car's run-flat tires for normal, grippier tires. For emergencies, a puncture repair kit was included with the Z06 instead. As a bonus, this meant the Z06 jettisoned the troublesome tire pressure monitoring system of the base car. For the first time ever on a production vehicle, the exhaust system of the Z06 was made from titanium, which weighed half as much as the stainless steel exhaust used in the standard Vette. And all those modifications paid off at the track. The Z06 could catapult from rest to 60 in just 4.3 seconds, and could circle the skid pad at nearly 1 G. The interior featured Z06 badging, and it was the only C5 available from the factory with two-tone seats. Compared to the base C5, the Z06 isn't nearly as comfy or luxurious in daily driving, but it's the easy choice if you value performance above all else. The rest of the Corvette line got numerous upgrades for 2001 as well. The base LS1 was blessed with the new intake and exhaust manifolds from the new LS6. That gave the LS1 5 extra horsepower, now at 350. Torque increased even more, up 10 to 360 with the automatic transmission, and up 25 with the manuals for a stout 375. Plus, an improved PCV ventilation system was introduced to reduce oil consumption. LS1 hot rodders take note. Stronger rod bolts were also shared with the Z06, which means these 2001 and up LS1s have better durability for aftermarket modifications. At the other end of the car, chrome exhaust tips became standard across the board. And because of the LS1 upgrades, the stock exhaust of the base car sounds even more aggressive. Despite the increased performance, fuel economy of the 2001 LS1 coupes and convertibles actually improved by 1 mile per gallon. In stick-shift cars, a revised clutch required less pedal pressure, and improved synchronizers were introduced for better shifting feel. In fact, I think the late C5 manual is tied with the C7 as the smoothest shifting stick ever put in a Corvette, like butter. I love it. A revised version of the active handling system was now a standard feature on all Corvettes, with less intrusive stability control that allowed for smoother driving at the limit. Crucially, the new electronic brake control module that runs this system is much easier to repair than the older version, but more on this in the common problems section later. All C5s got better body sealing for less road noise, and the convertible top got a thicker 5-layer design with improved weather stripping. In late 2001 LS1 models, a larger diameter driveshaft was also introduced. And finally, here were the color choices available in 2001, a year that ultimately saw the most significant changes of the C5's lifespan. In 2002, most of the color options remained, but a new electron blue was added to the mix. Both the LS1 and LS6 received new pistons to quell a piston slap ticking sound that could be heard when the engine was cold in earlier model years. But note that this change was meant to address customer noise complaints more than fixing any potential engine durability issues. Underneath the car, black plastic sway bar end links were swapped out for more durable aluminum designs going forward. The Z06 received several refinements in its second year. 2 of the 4 catalytic converters were removed to save weight and reduce back pressure. And a racier cam profile helped bump the Z06's LS6 up to 400 pound-feet of torque and 405 horsepower. New fender badges boasted of this power upgrade, and acceleration times improved by a few ticks. The Z06 also received a redesigned clutch to handle this newfound power, as well as revised rear shocks for more forgiving handling. The best just kept on getting better. A quick pit stop for my first ever sponsor, Surfshark VPN, and a special deal just for my viewers. Surfshark VPN is a super affordable privacy and cybersecurity tool that's especially handy for us car enthusiasts. Buying car parts online? Surfshark protects your personal and financial information from hackers. Researching automotive forums with a zillion annoying pop-ups? Surfshark blocks ads and malware, so the only pop-ups that you'll have to deal with are the fun kind. Surfshark protects all your devices from viruses and even has webcam protection. Look, a data breach is like an unexpected engine repair. It's expensive, it's stressful, and it's totally avoidable with the right parts. So bolt on Surfshark VPN to your devices and get 4 months free using the RetroCars discount code. Visit surfshark.com RetroCars. Now let's motor on back to the video. "2003 marked 50 years since the very first Corvette, so Chevy celebrated with the 50th anniversary special edition, the C5 that I own. This package was available on the Coupe and Convertible, but not the Z06, and it focused mostly on aesthetics. The special metallic paint was called Anniversary Red. The aluminum wheels were champagne colored, and special 50th badges were added to the front fenders. But what drew me to the 50th edition was this classy interior treatment. The 50th edition came exclusively with this luxurious shale over tan color scheme. It was also the only C5 that had leather door pulls and armrest pads, which are so nice you wonder why every C5 didn't have them. The 50th Anniversary Special Edition was a surprisingly popular upgrade. Even though it cost a hefty $5,000 over the base car, Chevy still sold 11,500 examples of the 50th, about 1/3 of total C5 production in 2003. Confusion alert! All 2003 Corvettes featured 50th anniversary emblems on the front and the rear, but only the actual 50th Anniversary Special Edition had the special color scheme and interior treatment and can be properly labeled as a 50th Anniversary Edition. 2003 introduced a trick new suspension option, the two-way magnetically adjustable F55 code suspension, which replaced the previous slower reacting F45 adjustable suspension option. But a big downside to these magnetic shocks is replacing them. There's years of confusing misinformation about swapping these F55 shocks out, so I actually made a whole video that goes over the actual options that are out there for owners today and how to swap the shocks yourself, which I'll link down below. The F55 magnetic shocks were standard on all 50th Anniversary Editions, optional on base Corvette Coupes and Convertibles in 2003 and 2004, and were never available on the C5 Z06. Midway through the 2003 model year, the fuel system was redesigned for emissions reasons. Because of this, the fuel filter was unfortunately moved from an easily accessible point along the frame rail to inside the fuel tank itself. And because these fuel tanks are saddle-style units buried deep within the car, accessing them is a challenge. However, this updated design did address erratic fuel gauge readings that earlier C5s can suffer from. Either way, an occasional dose of fuel system additive with Techron is advised to keep the tanks running smooth. For the first time, a child safety latch system was implemented with hidden hooks in the lower seat cushion of the passenger seat. Here are the colors available for the C5's penultimate year. Happy 50th, Corvette. 2004 was the final year for the C5, so a new special edition became available across the entire line, the Commemorative Edition. This appearance package was created to celebrate Corvette Racing's class wins in the previous two 24 Hours of Le Mans. The Commemorative Edition cars were painted in Le Mans blue, featured special badges, and flaunted brightly polished wheels. The Commemorative Edition of the Z06 added snazzy red and silver stripes and a unique carbon fiber hood that was around 11 pounds lighter. The inside of the Commemorative Z06 was only available in black, but the interiors of the Commemorative hatchback Coupe and Convertible saw the welcome return of the shale color scheme from the previous 50th Anniversary Edition. The Commemorative upgrade cost around $4,000 when new, and around 7,000 Commemorative Editions were made, around 20% of total C5 production that year. And guess which celebrity was one of those Commemorative Edition buyers? Paul McCartney, who can still be seen driving his around today. So get one of these and baby you could drive his car. Beyond the Commemorative Edition, not much else changed in 2004. The Z06 received revised suspension tuning to make handling more predictable. The F55 mag ride system saw some programming changes which can make them trickier to swap out. Again, check out my F55 video here for more details. And here were the exterior colors available for the final year of the C5, which turned out to be one of the most successful Corvette generations ever made. As good as the C5 Corvette is, it does have a few trouble spots. So here are the most common problems to watch out for. Let's start with the Electronic Brake Control Module, or EBCM for short. This unit manages ABS, traction control, and if so equipped, stability control. This will likely fail at least once during a C5's lifetime. And if it does, the gauge cluster will warn you about this fault every time you turn it on, and these two lights will be permanently lit up. If you're lucky, like I was, cleaning the grounding points in the engine bay can fix this issue. But if the EBCM itself has failed, you won't be able to replace it with a new one as they're no longer available. Now if you have a 2001 to 2004 C5, the fix is relatively straightforward. You can remove the unit and repair it yourself if you're handy with the soldering iron, or you can mail it to a trusted repair service like absfixer.com, which is highly regarded by the C5 community. For these later model years, ABS Fixer can rebuild the EBCM for $150 plus another $50 for their surge protection upgrade that significantly prolongs its life. Once they receive the unit, they only need a day or two to make the repair, and their work comes with a lifetime warranty, so not a huge issue. However, in earlier C5s made between 1997 to 2000, a failing EBCM is decidedly more painful. Recently, ABS Fixer has found a way to rebuild parts of these earlier units, but only for 2 specific codes, which they say is the issue around half the time. If you're lucky and these codes are the culprit, you'll need to shell out $750 for this refurbishing service. Otherwise, you'll have no choice but to buy a used unit. If it's been tested, expect to pay between $1,200 and $2,000. Warranties will only last a month or 2, and if it conks out after that, you'll have to deal with the problem all over again. So that's the biggest reason why I personally recommend buying a 2001 or later C5. Another annoying C5 bugaboo is the tire pressure monitoring system installed on every C5 except the Z06. These sensors are prone to failure, and even if one of them conks out, you'll get an annoying message about it every time you start the car. Sometimes a relearning procedure with a large magnet or simple reprogramming tool can clear the error, but keep in mind the batteries inside these wheel sensors only last around 7 years or so, and they're only accessible if you remove the tire. A tire shop should be able to replace all 4 sensors for around $200 to $400. My GM specialist used a set of Bosch units and charged $250 with labor for the job. Common issue number 3 is the wobbling harmonic balancer, which can affect any C5 no matter the mileage. The harmonic balancer is attached to the crankshaft and absorbs its vibrations as well as spinning a few belts. Unfortunately, the cheap rubber that holds the inner and outer ring of the balancer together often fails with age. If left unchecked, the outer ring can work itself loose and damage engine or steering components. Thankfully, this is easy to check by looking for any balancer wobble while the engine is idling. No wobble is perfect, and that probably means the balancer has already been replaced. A millimeter or 2 wobble is normal and shouldn't be a problem, but worth keeping an eye on. But any more than that, like you see in this third example, and it'll need replaced. Don't bother with an OEM replacement balancer because you'll have the same issue with the cheap rubber that GM used failing down the road. Instead, I hear the most recommendations for ATI, Summit, or PowerBond. Pay a shop to do this job and you'll be spending somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500 all in, and you shouldn't have to deal with it ever again. Another common C5 issue to watch out for, especially in higher mileage or abused examples, are the torque tube bearings and rubber couplers, which can wear out over time. Parts to rebuild this are relatively cheap, somewhere between $350 to $600 for a complete kit. But it's a time-consuming fix as the entire rear end has to be gutted to get to the torque tube, which takes about 9 hours of shop labor in total. With labor, you'll need to fork over around $2 to $3 grand to get this torque tube issue resolved. If you hear an oscillating scraping sound or feel a strange vibration coming from the middle of the car, this is the likely culprit. However, if you have a manual transmission, don't worry if you hear this faint grinding sound when pulling away from a stop. In fact, the GM supplied owner's video mentions this issue directly.
This noise is not an indication of a problem. It's a characteristic noise inherent in the driveline configuration of the Corvette.
Here's a blanket issue that covers a lot of C5 problems: electrical gremlins. Most of these issues stem from the 9 different negative grounding areas in the C5, many of which are prone to corrosion. The underside of the battery tray is another hot spot for gremlin attacks. If the battery leaks, it can drip acid right onto the important wires in this area. This is why some owners who let their Vets sit for long periods of time pony up for leak-proof AGM-style batteries. A locking steering column after startup is a particularly prevalent gremlin in any year of stick-shift C5s and automatics made before 2001. But there is a popular and simple workaround using this LMC5 bypass module, which I'll link to below. This kit is around 50 bucks and isn't too hard to install on your own, as it connects to the body control module located in the passenger side footwell. Overall, there are quite a few luxury items in the C5, so make sure to check all of them before buying the car, and watch that information screen when you start up the car like a hawk to make sure there aren't any warning signs. The C5 was the last mass-produced car ever made with pop-up headlights, which are super cool, but they can wear out. So have someone deploy them while you stand close, listening for any funky grinding or whirring sounds. It should sound quick and smooth like this. Finally, here's a bonus issue that only concerns the LS6 engine from the Z06, and specifically the 2002 and 2003 model years' cracked valve springs. The supplier sent a bad batch that was much too fragile, but thankfully they're easy to identify because of their yellow color. So if you're looking at one of these, check with the seller that it's been replaced. Now, all of these issues might sound daunting, but I don't want to scare anyone away from C5 ownership because, in general, they're quite reliable for a high-performance sport luxury car of its day. Rusting metal isn't much of an issue, thanks to liberal use of aluminum underneath the car and the plastic composite body panels. DashboardLight.com rates the C5's drivetrain reliability as exceptional. And case in point, this 1999 Coupe, which was donated to the National Corvette Museum in 2017. This C5 was still running strong at over 770,000 miles with its original LS1 engine still intact. Most C5 parts are easy to find and not too expensive, as there's generally strong aftermarket support with entire websites devoted to keeping Corvettes like these on the road. A huge clue that a particular car was well taken care of is a thick book of service records. This will help you track what's been done and what might still be needed. Like any car this old, there are several fluids and consumables that should be changed periodically because of age, not just mileage. So organized service records can save you a few grand right up front. Find the right C5 and it's a retro car that you can depend on every day, just like I do. Now, what's the value of each version of the C5 in major options these days? Well, I spent a week putting together my own C5 values guide using a cross-section of various trusted sources. That includes the latest Corvette Magazine Buyer's Guide, Hagerty's evaluation tool, and Classic.com to check actual results from numerous auction sites over the past year. This guide is for stock examples that you're most likely to find, with clean titles in good to excellent condition without any major issues, and with mileage in the typical 10 to 100,000 mile range. Let's start with the most affordable version of the C5, which is a base coupe with an automatic transmission. Those values without options look like this. Now, let's add some popular options that increase the value like these. And here are the additional premiums for the special editions that I covered earlier. We'll get to the Z06 and Indy pace cars next. And finally, don't forget service records. The more complete they are, the more valuable. Add all these values up, and there you go. Let's cover the Z06 next. 2002 and up model years are worth a bit more than the 2001 due to the extra power and refinements of the later years. The Commemorative Edition is extra valuable with the Z06 due to its collectability. And because Z06s are more expensive and have that potential valve spring issue, service records are even more important and valuable. Finally, we have the rare 1998 Indy pace car replica, and I'm going to look at a lower mileage range for these as most are barely driven. The only notable option was the 6-speed stick, and of course, service records add value to the car as always. So there you go, the C5 Corvette, a lot of car for the money, no matter which version you choose. Now I want to invite you to share your opinions and experiences with these cars in the comments section, where I'm also happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.